a virtual true story. Retelling based on a purely original web novel. Hello, everyone. I will remain anonymous. I am 53 years old this year, raising a son. I am an ordinary woman. No, not an ordinary woman anymore. I am now living a happier and more relaxed life than anyone else. But 30 years ago, I was a really innocent newlywed. She was the kind of wife who believed everything and her supported him devotedly from behind. But now, it's changed a lot. The story I'm going to tell you today will definitely be a lesson for you. If you are in a similar situation to me, please listen more carefully. In 1993, at the age of 23, I was the happiest bride in the world. My husband, his name is Minsu. He was a manager at a large company, good-looking and capable. I got married right after graduating from college and became a full-time housewife. My only happiness was preparing my husband's lunchbox with care every morning and preparing delicious side dishes before waiting for him. 6 months after we got married, my husband Minsu started working overtime. When someone said, "Honey, you're working overtime again? Eat first." I was a good wife who simply said, "You've worked hard. Honey, hurry up and wash up and eat." Even though he came in at 2 a.m. and smelled like alcohol, I just thought he was having a hard time at work. It happened in my 3rd year of marriage. When I was pregnant with my most precious child, I found a dark red lipstick stain on my husband Minsu's shirt. I always used light pink. My heart sank, but when I asked my husband, Minsu, he made an excuse. My junior colleague at work accidentally bumped into me while drinking. I wanted to believe it then. No, I thought I had to believe it. I couldn't shake it because there was a child in my stomach. But the doubts didn't go away. Strange things continued to happen during my pregnancy. Suddenly, he signs up for a gym membership, starts working out, smells like a new perfume, and takes his phone to the bathroom. Anxiety and nervousness began to eat away at my body. Even after the morning sickness subsided, I still had difficulty swallowing food and couldn't sleep at night. The decisive moment came when I was 8 months pregnant. "Honey, I'm going to a company workshop this weekend. It's going to be 2 nights and 3 days." He blurted out that one-sided phrase and then left for work without looking back. I was talking nonsense. Like suddenly saying 2 nights and 3 days while leaving my pregnant wife behind. Feeling anxious, I unpacked my husband Minsu's travel bag and found some women's underwear. It was a design I would never wear. I was sure at that moment, my husband Minsu is really cheating on me. But the despair was greater than the anger. I had a baby in my stomach and no work experience, so I was at a loss as to how I should live. At the postpartum care center, I came to one conclusion. I'll get a divorce someday, but I'll do it on my own terms. I couldn't afford to lose everything. In the throes of emotional rage, I planned revenge. And it started with collecting evidence. I hired a private investigator. I had my husband Minsu follow me once every 2 or 3 months. We have secured crucial evidence, including photos of him entering a hotel and photos of him dating another woman. At home, I kept copies of all my credit card statements and receipts. Minsu had no idea. And as a precautionary measure for post-divorce stability, I created a secret savings account in my mother's name by taking a little bit from my monthly living expenses. When my child entered elementary school, I started an online shopping mall. Minsu laughed and said, "What are you doing? Earning this kind of small change?" But I started saving 2 million to 3 million won. I was already building up assets worth hundreds of millions of won. I also studied real estate. I ended up buying a studio apartment, of course, under my mother's name. I was also diagnosed with depression. It was because of my husband's affair. All of this was in preparation for the compensation. The doctor also told me to be brave, as if he was on my side. Finally, on our 20th wedding anniversary, it's time to take action. That day, Minsu said it was a company dinner. But I already knew. I was meeting a junior female employee at a Gangnam hotel. I waited in front of the hotel with a private detective. Finally showed up. At 8 p.m. It was the first time in 20 years that I witnessed a pretty woman in her mid-20s and her husband, Minsu, entering the hotel lobby. It would not be an exaggeration to say that I bit my tongue and held it in with all my might to maintain my composure, even though I was overcome with an indescribable anger. I hope you all understand how I feel. This is how the private investigator obtained all the crucial photos. The next morning, as soon as my husband, Minsu, got ready for work, I told him that I had to stop by somewhere urgently and took him to the lawyer's office. Please file for divorce. Minsu was surprised and said, "Honey, are you getting a divorce? What are you talking about all of a sudden?" In an instant, I poured out all the evidence. Files I had collected over the past 20 years onto the lawyer's table. It wasn't sudden. I've been preparing for it for 20 years. And as I put down the evidence file, while speaking in a firm tone, my husband Minsu's face turned pale. Then, in an instant, he got down on his knees and started begging. I said with a deliberately cynical expression, "It's not over yet. If you lied to me countless times and deceived me, have you ever given even a thought to how you could repay me for it?" Then my husband Minsu started getting angry. "Don't even dream of half the fortune," he yelled at me. But I just smiled coldly and said one thing: try it and see who wins. The trial results will tell, I said confidently. And after 6 months of trial, I achieved a complete victory. I won the property division by a landslide, split 7-3, and deposit split 8-2. With $300 million won in alimony and $2 million won in child support per month, went to me. And as a bonus, during the trial, $500 million won that Minsu had hidden in his mother-in-law's name was discovered and returned to Minkor. I currently own an apartment in Gangnam and 3 studio apartments. My online business generates a monthly income of $5 million, and my savings exceed 1.2 billion won. The son is a filial son among filial sons, who says he will become a medical student at a prestigious university until the day he dies. After I graduate from school and become a medical doctor, after completing my residency, I plan to open a private hospital in my son's name in the Gangnam area. As you can see today, every time I come back from outside, I bring home delicious cakes and fruits to show my filial piety to my mom. These days, I live with this kind of fun. Oh, and I wasn't going to say this, but I'll say it for the benefit of victims in the same situation as me. I say this to remind you that in this society, those who commit injustice and leave painful scars on others will never be treated well and live. I heard a rumor that my ex-husband, Minsu, was demoted from his company and became penniless, living alone in a shabby studio apartment in the outskirts. That young woman also married another man and then divorced him again because of her husband's affair. Seeing that rumors are circulating, it seems like they are paying the price for the sins they have spread all along. Sometimes people ask me, "You've endured it for 20 years. Don't you regret it?" Honestly, it was hard. But I never regret it. If I had divorced emotionally 20 years ago, I would have suffered without receiving anything in return. I also teach women entrepreneurship now. I can't stress enough how important financial independence is to be self-sufficient. Finally, I'd like to give you one piece of advice. Here's something I really want to say to people in similar situations. First, don't get swept up in emotions. Second, prepare thoroughly. Third, take your time. Don't give up either. Start your own new life. That's the real victory. How was it to see a true story in webtoon form? If you felt something new and inspiring, please subscribe, like, and leave lots of comments. Subscriptions and likes are shortcuts to more true stories. We'll be back next week with another surprising story, a retelling of a fictional true story based on a purely original web novel. See you next time. Rest well. Bye.